Welcome to the real deal. Get it?
This is the show where we take old movies and we talk about it.
Old or new, regardless. We will attempt to delve deeper into these films to find meaning, whether there was any intended or not, to apply to our troubled times. I am your infinitely perspicacious and humble Sherpa of cinema, Adison D'Rose.
Is that really your name, dude? That's not what you said the other day when we were at the meeting. You said your name was Doug, but anyway,
I
if
like
that's how you want to go there,
use
it's fine.
aliases so you can't find me.
Okay, really? Did you kill anybody? What did it feel like?
Was
it weird?
You don't want to step to me, son.
Okay. I'm Bill, and I'm here to talk about movies. Today we're going to do an old one. We're going to do 1974's Death Wish, directed by Michael Winner and starring Charles Bronson.
Let's look at the trailer.
Enjoy a typical afternoon in New York City.
Who is it?
Groceries, man.
Hey, Mother.
My name is Paul Kersey. How's my life?
I'm sorry. She died a few minutes ago.
This is the story of a man who decided to clean up the most violent town in the world.
Let's see the money, man.
Call him a mad vigilante. Call him a hero. Either way, he's always on target. Because a death wish always comes true.
Rarely in the storied annals of Cinetopia has a film been so aptly titled. While enduring this pitiful excuse for a motion picture, I found myself wishing for the boon of a swift demise. In short, I wish that Charles Bronson's gun had been in my hand.
I wasn't as suicidal as my cohort, D. Furlance D. Wino over here. But I have to say, for the most part, Death Wish, as being kind of a period piece, worked. I love the grimy 70s New York shot and film. It's kind of, it always takes me back to a time when the city really was a dangerous place. But overall, Death Wish has no real center. We got a guy whose wife and daughter are brutally attacked. Jeff Goldblum's first role has him pulling his pants down and having a woman forcefully give him oral. I don't know if that's something he really puts in his, if he's sitting at a cocktail party. Hey, do you know what my first role was on Death Wish? I sexually assaulted a girl on screen. You get to see my ass. I haven't watched too many Charles Bronson films, but you know what? In this film, talk about wooden. Does this guy act at all?
I have to agree. I remember that there were some rumors that Mr. Bronson was Native American, but he appears to have been more from the cigar store tribe than the Lakota.
If your point is he's a wooden actor, I agree. There are some like big close-ups when he's looking at his wife who's passed away from the attack. Like he's looking at Polaroid. Is there anything going on in this guy's head? Anything at all? So as a character going through this change of, becoming a normal, regular sales guy to vigilante, I didn't see it. And actually the violence in the film is pretty gratuitous. The guy is, let's just say it, the guy's a psychopath. This guy's a straight-up psychopath. He murders like 8 to 10 people. He has no remorse. He shoots people in the back while they're on the ground.
Mr. Bronson is actually as bad, if not worse, than the people who are robbing him, because all he has to do is pull his gun out and scare them away. And yet he mows down all of these helpless people.
Well, I wouldn't say helpless.
They're helpless.
It's a little too liberal for my taste.
They don't have guns, and he does.
And I love the take on the cops, which is like, you know what? Let him go free because he's a deterrent.
Mugging has gone down by how much, sir?
$9.50 a week to $4.70, he reported last week.
You understand not too many people know that.
And you want to keep it that way.
There's a moment in which they discuss how the gun is an extension of the penis.
Yeah.
And this film does indeed feel as though it's a wet dream of the NRA.
A Viagra for gun nuts. On paper, not bad. It's based on a novel. You got an interesting arc. You're in the city in the 70s, living in a high-end New York apartment. You deal with the wife. You know, there's a nice scene when they're in Hawaii. They're enjoying the beautiful ocean. And there's a great monster cut to the title Death Wish. And now they're kind of trapped in this city that you can kind of tell they're getting it's getting a little on their nerves. On paper, the plot is fine. It's in the execution that it gets a little bad. Once this guy turns into a stark raving vigilante lunatic, I kind of lost the idea of what was the point, outside of just seeing people get mowed down. And as I hear from the 70s, from people that I know, audiences cheering, which is a whole other thing we got to get into, which is audiences ate this up like Pringles chips. They loved it. They sat in the theater, they whooped, they hollered, they loved the fact that this guy was getting revenge on people.
The phrase is the plot thickens, but in this film, the plot thins. You mentioned the novel, and it's interesting because apparently in the original, the author intended it to be anti-vigilante.
Right.
And, of course, they couldn't make sequels out of that. But
you give it a little
it's
props in
pretty
the
bad.
beginning? Did you kind of like the whole setup in Hawaii and the fact that they come back and you can tell they're kind of over it, and then evil comes upon the home?
Some of the acting is incredibly wooden. But on the other end of the
Are you going to make another Indian reference?
No.
Okay.
On the other end of the spectrum, you have a mouth-foaming Jeff Goldblum. I kill rich cunts.
Say it again.
And he hits them with blackjacks and cracks their heads open. You have someone who appears to be of Hispanic descent for some unknown reason.
Put Nazi swastikas on.
Yes.
You always know where you have punks when they're acting up in supermarkets. You know, it's a nice, peaceful supermarket. People just want to get D'Agostino's, which is mentioned like 12 times.
Because that's where they hang out. While we're on the topic of the D'Agostino's thread in the film, which seems to be the most prominent theme in the film, is that apparently is also how the police solve the case, is because they figure out that there must be a code on the receipts, and they can figure out which D'Agostino's the punks were in.
Michael Winner, I don't know what he did before this. I know this film put him on the map. It was a monster smash. I think the first third of the film is effective. I think them coming back to New York, he makes all the apartments seem claustrophobic and kind of like suffocating. The brutal scene, the attack is effective. It really is. There's a funeral. He buries his wife. The daughter becomes comatose completely for no logical reason. She just stops talking. After that, the film just, whatever. Standard action revenge shit that I've seen before.
The film is pretty lackluster in its direction, and therefore Winner seems to me to be overstated at best. Perhaps you'll find that what separates our show from the other reviewers is that we like to go in depth to a scene that we feel is key to the understanding of the entire film.
Charles Bronson, after his wife's murder, gets put on a plane to go to Arizona to work on a development deal, and the owner of the property takes him to a Wild Wild West show.
Where's the marshal? He's in the bank. I spotted him through the window as I came by.
What do you got in mind to do then?
Well, why don't you steal my horse?
All right, that's a good trick. We'll use it. You spot yourself on the porch while I draw the marshal out into the open. Marshal? Hey, Marshal!
What's the matter, fella?
Somebody stole my horse.
I told you to get out of town by sunset. You missing a bay mare that was tied to the hitching rail? Saw a fella come and take her just a spell ago.
Well, what did he look like?
Well, he was about this tall, and he had this...
Get him, Frank! Let's put him inside here and get to the bank and make that withdrawal.
D. Cracker, what did you think of what the scene meant?
To me, it was about the immediate gratification of seeing people shooting each other without much substance. There were a couple of lines like, "You better get out of town," and then shoot someone who's up on a roof. And that's what the audience seemed to be clapping for.
Doug D. Cracker de Provence was saying in his own way that the audience cheering is kind of the way we felt watching Bronson in the city. One guy's bad, one guy's good. The bad guy deserves to die. He gets shot. Everyone cheers.
And the good guy is always good for shooting the bad guy.
Right. I never sensed that. I don't know anything about this guy. So when he started shooting people randomly, I'm like, how does he feel about it? Is he conflicted? I think he came home and drank scotch, and after his first scotch, he felt like he was okay with the whole thing.
This, to me, is the part of why I think this film is so vile. It's absolutely irresponsible in the sense that Bronson, admittedly, does not have to kill anyone. All he has to do is show his gun, and yet he chooses. And this is where it kind of comes back to our times. It's as though these black and Hispanic lives
and one random
do
Jewish
not
guy from the
matter
5 towns
at all.
I'm not going to say the film is vile, because I think the film is just exploitative in the way it's made, which is just it's kind of a video game of just bad guy comes, bad guy gets shot, bad guy shows up, bad guy gets shot. I don't know if it's, yes, there's a vile aspect to it, but why you felt violated was because who the fuck is Charles Bronson? As a character, we never felt the conflict in what he did.
It doesn't matter who Charles Bronson is. There is no justification for him murdering people in cold blood just because they ask for, his wallet,
Right.
which has a few bucks in it. That's not an excuse to be mowing down low income or black and Hispanic teens.
Why were the audiences cheering both? I don't know what the color breakdown in the
If
theater
you
was, but why was
feel-
the audience cheering?
Because they don't care about these characters.
Okay.
They are on the side of Bronson, that these people do not deserve to live, that they're blight on society. Right now, in this country, and for the last 10 years or so, we have been hearing story after story about minorities being killed by the police for doing simply nothing.
Right.
So you ask me, why was the audience cheering? Probably more so now. There's probably even more people saying that we should be shooting people before they shoot us.
Does the vigilante, does the common man have to take a stronger, more badass approach than the criminal himself?
How can you define a criminal at that point? Someone who's taking a few dollars from you can take a few dollars from you, but they leave you your life.
How do you know those guys weren't going to kill him? Let me just ask this question. If he carried a legal gun, would he legally be within his right to defend himself?
If you remember that guy in Florida,
I know
there was this stand your ground law in which someone was just walking by and happened to be wearing a hoodie. And that was enough reason for him to think that that person was a criminal. So where do you draw the line then?
Well, I guess that's what the movie is trying to
But
tap
I'm
into.
asking you. I think it's encouraging that it appears the new remake of this film has not been box office success.
It's a bomb.
They didn't eat it up as they did in 74.
Listen, I got to get the fuck out of here. So I'm going to talk about Death Wish overall. I was surprised how little depth this film had. Like I said, the first half of the movie was gripping, but I thought Paul's descent into vigilanteisms.
Veggie burger?
Anyway, I thought that would have been handled with more intelligence and a little bit more subtlety and kind of
The original director was supposed to be Sidney Lumet.
Oh, really?
And the original Paul was going to be Jack Lemmon. So I think it would have been a lot different.
Say the name one more
context.
time for the audience, sir.
Adison D'Rose.
Oh, I love it. I love the name. I love this man. I can't wait to do more movies with you. This was so much fucking fun. I'm in euphoric. What the fuck? I'm just having so much fun with you. That's all I can say.
It wasn't the worst time of my life.
Aw, you're sweet.